Hello, hello, hello. How is everybody doing this evening? We have a very long, but I think informative live stream planned for tonight. I'm going to be taking you through many of the events of the last few days, and then obviously we'll get into the specifics of the Israeli invasion of southern Lebanon. We're going to get to that in just a moment. I'm getting a couple things situated here, so if you guys will bear with me. But yeah, we're going to be discussing the assassination. There are some details about the killing of Hassan Nasrallah. We're going to be talking about Israeli intelligence capabilities, not only in the assassination of Hassan Nasrallah, but also in general. And it's going to reveal, I think, a lot of information about some of the challenges that the resistance forces, both in Gaza and in Lebanon, have had to deal with and will have to continue to deal with. We're also going to talk about the situation in Iran. There are some protests against the current president over the events of the last few days. He is essentially being blamed, and people are unhappy with his position that they feel have put the resistance forces in this fragile position that they have been in over the last few days. And then we're going to talk about the United States' continued support for Israel and go into some details there. And then, of course, we'll get into the meat and potatoes of the invasion of southern Lebanon. So before we continue, I would just like to ask all of you if you could chat regularly. I have the chat open here, and so I'm seeing messages from both X and YouTube. If you don't know, I'm streaming to both X and YouTube currently live, and so you can watch me on either platform, whichever one you prefer. I just ask that you don't say anything racist or violent or anti-Semitic or anything like that. One, because it's not right, but also two, you could potentially affect my stream, so don't do that. The way that you can positively help the stream is by chatting continuously in the live chat, which will obviously trigger the algorithm and get this stream out to more of our followers. And then also dropping comments on the YouTube stream link itself as well. That's all very helpful. I'm going to be watching the chat regularly to answer any questions. I'm going to be focused mainly on my presentation. But I will be engaging. So this is a form of two-way communication. So if you have any questions or comments, or if there are any live updates, especially if you are a regular viewer, I see Sarah, I see Ahmed, I see many other names that I recognize. If there are any updates that I'm unaware of, please go ahead and comment them in the chat in real time so that I can update people and explore it myself. So let's just hop right into it because there is a lot to cover. So first, we're going to talk about the assassination of Hassan Nasrallah. Now, there's this journalist I came across, Elijah Magnier, I believe if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. He wrote a detailed post on X about how Hassan Nasrallah's security breach may have occurred on the day of his assassination, and I found it to be very interesting. And so I want to take you guys through that. So I'll just read the first portion of his post here. He says, since becoming a declared target for Israel, Nasrallah's security detail has implemented extraordinary precautions. Individuals and his immediate surroundings were prohibited from using mobile phones or the internet. Moreover, Nasrallah adopted a highly secretive lifestyle, frequently relocating between different apartments and never staying in one location for an extended period of time. In addition, tiny passageways were created within adjacent buildings to allow him to move from place to place without needing a vehicle. These measures provided a sense of security to his protective unit, mainly since his movements were concealed from aerial surveillance, reducing the risk of detection by drones or satellites that continuously gather intelligence. So it seems like, obviously, they did the right thing. They did the best they could to conceal his movements and protect his location in order to prevent an assassination. So the question is then, how did Israel find out that he was in the bunker beneath the structures that they attacked? So let's find out. Now, he had a very long post, but I'm not going into the entire thing. I'm just taking you to the portions that I find to be relevant. It says here, the specific location targeted in the attack was known as the Khatam al-Anbiya headquarters, a command center overseen by Commander Fuad al-Shukr. Now, if you guys remember, Fuad al-Shukr was number 2 or number 3 in Hezbollah, and he was assassinated back in early July, within 12 hours of the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran. So Fuad al-Shukr was overseeing this command center, and he had been tasked with managing the Al-Aqsa flood battle response since October 8th. Shukr was a regular visitor to this site. However, despite Shukr's assassination in the suburb on 30th of July, sorry, it was the end of July, not the beginning of July, Hezbollah did not view the incident as a sign of internal security breach, whether through human or electronic means. So basically, after this assassination, it didn't raise too many eyebrows. They didn't think that maybe they had an internal problem or a deeper intelligence problem. And so Hezbollah didn't, apparently, according to Elijah, didn't think too much about it. Okay, now Israel has announced that its intelligence for the operation was based on a combination of visual, human, and electronic sources, particularly from its units 9900, 8200, and 504. These units provided crucial information indicating that Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah had entered a meeting hall where high-ranking officials, including the deputy commander of the Irani Revolutionary Guards Corps, Major General Abbas Nilfroshan, the commander of the Irani Revolutionary Guards Operation Room, both present to support the Al-Aqsa flood battle. They were there waiting for Hassan Nasrallah. Okay, so he mentioned 3 different units. You have Unit 9900, which engages in visual intelligence, and that is through drones and satellites and other capabilities. Some of it Israeli, much of it from the United States and Britain. And then Unit 8200, which many of you have heard of, they engage in a lot of psychological and cyber warfare, and they do signal intelligence. So they are hacking your phones, they are on WhatsApp, they are listening to communications, they're listening to you through your phone, through your microphone, and they're collecting intelligence. And then there's Human Intelligence Unit 504. These are people that are basically establishing contact with human beings that they can collect intelligence from, whether through force or them just, voluntarily selling out. So it was a combination of these 3 things that essentially gave them an idea of Hassan Nasrallah's whereabouts, and that's how they were able to determine that he is in this bunker beneath this structure, and that is how and why they were able to target it, destroy it, and kill him, as well as all those in that building as well. Now, I'm going to go into details about what kind of explosives they used because it's like absolutely mind-boggling. The level of destruction that they caused and that they were willing to cause. Obviously, they killed a few hundred civilians as well in order to accomplish that. So we'll go into detail about that. But I just want you to understand it was a combination of these 3 things that may have, we don't know for sure, but may have revealed his location. Now, here's the problem. Hezbollah now faces the urgent task of addressing these critical questions. It must swiftly abandon its known and previously used locations, eliminate above-ground operations, and undertake a comprehensive intelligence review to uncover the necessary answers and prevent future security breaches. Because the question is now, is there a mole? If it's human intelligence, okay, who is the human being? And are they still operating? How many of them are there? Where else are they, operating? How much risk do we have? And this is happening in real time as Israel continues to pound them, and now they're invading. So Hezbollah has to fight back while trying to determine where the security breach specifically is. So this is going to produce a lot of issues. Hopefully they figure it out. Otherwise, they're going to continue to face many other challenges. Now, I want to go into a little bit of detail about Israel's signal intelligence, the way they're able to collect intelligence. Now, I'm not going to tell you this to make you feel hopeless, although I'm telling you, when you hear this, you are going to feel hopeless because you're going to feel like, damn, these people are good, they're smart, they have a lot of capabilities, how the hell do we compete? Now, I'm not telling you this so that you can feel hopeless, but I'm telling you this because I want you to understand how resistance forces in Gaza, in southern Lebanon, what they are up against. And instead of feeling hopeless, you should feel impressed about the level of bravery and sophistication of resistance forces that are completely outmatched in how they continue their resistance anyway, in the face of a literal juggernaut, okay? So last year, March 29th, Israel launched an OFEC spy satellite. They have more than one, spy satellite, but this was like their newest one, and it's called OFEC 13 or OFEC 16. And it has many different types of technology, and from space essentially collects data and information. We're going to go into detail about what kind of information. So it has something on board, not just regular cameras where they take high-level pictures and videos, but they also have something called a synthetic aperture radar, an SAR. I've talked about this in the past. What is significant about this, it uses radio frequencies and infrared and all these different things, and it gives it the ability to collect data on the ground, even at night. and even through the clouds. So it can be raining, it can be a gloomy day, a cloudy day. They can still see through the clouds and collect data and information. And then it produces high quality imagery out of that data, and not just pictures. It will, as you'll see in a bit, it also produces 3D models of what it's seeing, and it details the distance between things, very accurate distance, okay? And it shows you the difference in terrain, okay, such as the topography or the altitude. So the hill, the mountain, the valley, the difference between the distance between them and the distance, above and below them. So this is an Israeli guy. Okay, I know nobody wants to take information from Israelis. Sometimes it's propaganda, sometimes it's nonsense, sometimes it's on point. In this case, this guy's on point, and I actually get some level of insight from him. Now, let me see if I can zoom in here, because I hate when this happens. All right, give me a second. Okay, that's a little better. No, it's not. Whatever. I'll take you screen solo for a second. Okay, so this guy says, what the IDF has now confirmed in this video was obvious. There is no doubt they have centimeter level 3D models of every building in Lebanon. On LiDAR maps, the entrances of Hezbollah's secret hideouts would light up like Christmas trees. Now, this satellite I told you about has LiDAR, okay, which is a different type of technology, which I won't go into the specifics of right now. It also has the synthetic aperture radar I told you about, and then it has cameras, and it also communicates with drones as well. So I don't know if he's right when he says they have centimeter level 3D models of every building in Lebanon, okay? But they definitely have a lot. And this is very helpful information for them, because if they can develop 3D models, okay, they can basically build a game and simulate everything, okay? So they can say, if we want to take this area, how would we do it? We have to go through this mountain valley pass. We have to go through this building. How much distance do we have? Can 5 soldiers fit in an alleyway in this building? Can 1 rocket destroy it, or do we need 3? They can have pinpoint accuracy with their artillery 10 miles back. Okay, and they can give them the coordinates and hit them directly. So they have a lot of goddamn information, and it's coming from these satellites, okay? And then look, he goes into detail here. It's trivial to track changes in these maps. When a farmhouse is extended, when new tracks appear in a wood, the changes show up bright. Okay, so basically what he's telling you, okay, he's showing you like a picture here, and he's showing you the difference in elevation. And what he's trying to tell you is that every single day, Israel takes information, pictures, video, synthetic aperture radar, 3D models, every single day across a wide range of territory. And then every hour, every day, they are measuring the changes. So was there any type of change in this specific area? If so, why? And they're able to determine, okay, maybe they brought a rocket out of the tunnels underneath the ground, and now they're getting ready to launch it, maybe tomorrow, maybe in an hour. Maybe there are troops there hiding out. So they're able to use AI. They feed all this information to AI, which, by the way, Amazon and Google and all these other companies empower them and are therefore complicit. But they provide all this information to AI, which is constantly learning and detecting and then offering them information and saying, hey, there's a change here. And then a human will review that change and try to determine whether there are Hezbollah activities taking place there. So this should not make you feel hopeless, but this should give you an understanding of what they are up against, the resistance. Everyone wants to say, why aren't they doing more? Why can't they do more? Just say thank you that they're risking their lives, because they are up against a literal juggernaut, okay? And we're talking about a dystopian level future in which highly sophisticated technology is being used to defeat them and destroy them. So these men are incredibly brave, and they are outgunned and outmatched. Now, I want to show you an example. This is very old, okay, because this technology is also very old. But the United States, apparently, using similar technology from satellite imagery, was able to develop a 3D model of a nuclear facility in North Korea. And this was back in 2007, okay? This was 17 years ago. And they're able, look at the difference in the land, in the hills, in the buildings. Okay, this is what Israel is doing to southern Lebanon. And before they invade, their troops are looking at this information and watch it again. I mean, they understand where all these different buildings are. They understand the distance between them. They understand the topography, how high the hills are around it. You know, can we get a vehicle there or not? And they're simulating all of this in real time using AI, and they've been planning this for a year. So We'll talk about the invasion challenges later on in the video, but I just want to give you an understanding of the type of technology Israel's using, okay, before they go in. So they definitely have the advantage. All right. Now back to the assassination of Hassan Nasrallah. This is a Zionist account, and they shared some information, but some of it is accurate. Israel's assassination of Nasrallah gives us an insight into how they might tackle Iran's nuclear facilities. We can ignore that portion. What we're focused on are the fighter jets and the weapons they used. So Israel used 40, 80, between 40 to 80, and I think it's been confirmed now as 82, BLU-109 penetrator JDAMs rather than dedicated bunker busters. F-15s were completely loaded with bombs, 7 each, and no external fuel tanks. Okay, so they basically took these powerful fighter jets and they removed the external tanks so that they can put very heavy bombs on them. And I'll show you what kind of bombs. Okay, we posted this back in December of last year, and we provided details about the type of bombs they were using. Israel uses Mark 80 series and BLU-109. They are made by General Dynamics in the USA. This is what the United States, this is what Kamala Harris, this is what Joe Biden is providing to the state of Israel. They're very heavy, okay? The MK-82 is a 500-pound bomb. MK-83 is a 1,000-pound bomb. And MK-84 is a 2,000-pound bomb. And then if they add a steel tip to it, a steel tip to this very heavy bomb allows it to penetrate the earth for a couple of feet, maybe 12 feet, before it detonates, okay? So if they add a steel tip to an MK-84, that then becomes, based on my limited understanding, a BLU-109, a 2,000-pound bomb. Israel used 82 of these to kill Hassan Nasrallah. 2,000 pounds, okay? Let me put this into context for you. 2,000 pounds is 1 ton. Israel used 82 tons of explosives, so 82 of these, meaning 164,000 pounds, okay, of explosive firepower to destroy 6 apartment blocks in order to get underneath the ground to hit the deeply dug in bunkers and tunnels that Nasrallah and these other people were in that is covered with reinforced concrete. This was a multi-million dollar operation with these fighter jets and all these explosives and these bombs, which are very expensive, and a lot of it is provided by and facilitated by the United States, by Joe Biden, by Kamala Harris. Vote blue no matter who, because World War III will be prevented if Kamala Harris and Joe Biden continue their administration, if Kamala Harris is reelected. And so, yeah, this is the kind of explosive they used. And then here you can see BLU-109s can penetrate approximately 6 feet of concrete. It's unknown how deeply buried the headquarters was, but it's clear that the Israelis made successive hits at multiple points to penetrate it. This is clearly a huge effort, but it would be feasible against Iran. You could ignore the portion about Iran. What we're focused on, okay, is the type of explosive used. And then down here you can see he has some details about the bomb. And again, they're MK-84, they're 2,000-pound bombs, and then they add these JDAM attachments. They add basically these attachments that make it precision-guided, laser-guided, GPS-guided to make it very accurate. And so they take an old dumb bomb made decades ago, and they make it into a smart bomb. And that is what they used to penetrate deep within the earth to kill Hassan Nasrallah. Now, I want to read you this. Iran International English says, Israel's Channel 12 reported that Hassan Nasrallah died of suffocation in an unventilated bunker, which is why his body was recovered intact from the rubble. According to the report, toxic gases from the explosions entered the room where he was staying, causing his gradual death. So they're basically saying he slowly suffocated to death. Now, is this true? Maybe, maybe not. According to Elijah, he says, according to witnesses, Hezbollah Secretary General Sayyid Nasrallah did not die from a lack of oxygen, as Israel is attempting to claim in an effort to suggest he suffered before his death. The building had 4 entrances and 4 exits, and he was found near one of the exits. Therefore, it is clear that his death was instantaneous, caused by the immense pressure triggered by 85 tons of explosives. Israel appears to be portraying this as a complete act of revenge, demonstrating a sadistic approach and a lack of respect for the deceased. Who's right? I don't know. It doesn't matter. The man has passed, and it was because of these explosives. Okay, so now we're going to talk... now we're going to talk about what is happening in Iran, because as I explained the other day, okay, I'm not going to go into too much detail about it now because we have a lot of ground to cover, but as I explained the other day, Iran's lack of response to the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran 2 months ago is what emboldened Israel to be aggressive and start targeting Hezbollah commanders, Fuad al-Shukr 2 months ago, and then all the other people they've assassinated now, Hassan Nasrallah. Okay? So basically, Iran showed weakness. And the reason why they showed weakness is because they had a new president elected. Now, if you remember 2 months ago, the president and the foreign minister of Iran died in a helicopter crash, a mysterious and sudden helicopter crash, which people speculate could have been a Mossad operation. Some people think it was a complete accident. I don't know. Helicopters are very dangerous. Kobe Bryant died on a modern helicopter. So imagine the old one Iran is flying. So it's totally possible it was an accident. It's totally possible it was Mossad. Doesn't matter. What we know for a fact is that it prompted elections, and this man, okay, was elected. And this man has been telling the Ayatollah, we need to be careful. We can't be aggressive with Israel because we can't afford it. We don't want to walk into this. We need to try and be peacemakers, and we need to try and de-escalate the situation and just try to get a ceasefire in Gaza, blah, blah, blah. Well, people are very mad at him because they think you are naive, you showed weakness, Israel took advantage, this is your fault. Well, that has prompted protests. I don't know how big these protests are, but you can see some images here. As Jackson Hinkle and many other people have reported, Iranis are rallying to impeach President Pezeshkian over his administration's unwillingness to confront Zionist terrorists and their possible role in the assassination of Hezbollah's Hassan Nasrallah. Okay, now before I show you this video, I want you to know the difference between the president, okay, who is calling for peace, and the previous position by Iran, okay? A couple of months ago, about 6 months ago now, when Israel attacked the Irani embassy in Damascus, okay, and they killed many Irani commanders and diplomatic officials, Iran decided to respond with strength. They needed to establish a red line and establish deterrence and say, we need to put Israel in check. We need to let them know we're serious. And so they had a bit of a performative strike, but still a very significant one. And I'm going to show you this propaganda video, okay, that has a nice little TikTok edit that will demonstrate the difference in the strategy, okay? So I want you to understand now. This was 6 months ago after Israel attacked. This is how Iran responded, and this is what they said they would continue to do.
امروز جوانان ما توانستن به قدرت موشکی اول منطقه تبدیل بشن. دشمن میدانه که اگر یکی بزنه 10 تا میخوره.
Okay, so you guys get the point, okay? Basically, what the Ayatollah said 6 months ago, I don't know if he said this 6 months ago or if this took place before, okay? But I want you to understand what he just said. So let's read it again together. It's very important. Look, the enemy knows. If he hits us with 1, we'll hit him with 10. And this is what happened in April. When they hit the embassy in Damascus, Iran responded. Now, many people say, oh, it was performative. They let the whole region know. Yes, they did, because they didn't want, an escalation, but they just wanted to make a point. And it was still significant because they hit Tel Aviv. They hit different areas of Israel. Actually, maybe not Tel Aviv, some other areas. But they definitely hit the Nevatim Air Base with the F-35s. Okay, so they're able to hit these locations and demonstrate we can hit you. So if you hit us, we will strike you back. And for about a month, this spooked Israel because Israel wanted to respond and escalate, but the United States said, no, we don't want that escalation. So Iran, by showing strength, made them cool off and back off. Okay? And they promised from now on, we're not going to be these soft dubs seeking peace. We're going to strike back. Well, what is the difference, okay, between the Ayatollah and the president? This is the difference. This guy wants to make peace, and other factions in the government want to strike back. So this is why people are mad now. They're protesting because they're saying you should have struck back. You should have maintained that posture, and you didn't, and you screwed us over. Okay? So let's keep it moving. Now let's talk about U.S. support okay, for the state of Israel. As you know, they've given them so much money, billions and billions of dollars, all these different weapons. When Israel invades Lebanon, when they bomb civilians in Lebanon, when they commit genocide in Gaza, that is not Israel alone. That is the United States as well. The United States is complicit. They've given them all the weapons. They've given them all the diplomatic and political cover. They've given them all the money in the world. That includes Kamala Harris, and if elected, Donald Trump would do the same, okay? They're giving them a ton of money. Congress is complicit. The Senate is complicit. The president is complicit. Okay, the United States is complicit. And of course, they have those OFEC satellites. The United States has even more, and they're giving that data in real time to Israel. So whenever they assassinate someone, the United States definitely knows whatever they say, they're lying. And just the other day, as if they didn't need more money, Israel says it secured an additional $8.7 billion in U.S. aid from the United States. And here you can see the package includes $3.5 billion for essential wartime procurement, which has already been received and earmarked for critical military purchases, and $5.2 billion designated for air defense systems, including the Iron Dome David Sling and an advanced laser system. Now, there's a couple things to know. First of all, the United States is complicit. The other thing is, why does Israel need $5.2 billion designated for air defense systems? Because Hezbollah and the Houthis have been chipping away at their air defenses. Israel is running low on air defenses. Unfortunately, they just got re-upped. So the hope, okay, and we'll talk about this strategy later on, but I'll summarize it quickly in case you log off. You better not log off, though. The strategy is for Hezbollah to stretch out their capabilities of rockets, not fire them all at once, but fire little by little to keep the north empty. And continue to drain these resources, okay? But they just got re-upped on those resources. Now, let's read this tweet by Mel. I follow her on Twitter. She follows me back. She's been great. Follow her. Her handle is Village Crazy Lady, and she produces a lot of good tweets on this kind of information. She says, Lloyd Austin has decided that 50,000 American troops in the Middle East isn't enough to ensure Israel's absolute right to bomb as many women and children as it pleases. So he's ordered up a few thousand more just now. We cannot mobilize tens of thousands of troops to help pull our own goddamn citizens out of flood-ravaged regions across the south, but you can bet your bottom dollar we can send them to sit on their asses in the Middle East and Cyprus and the Mediterranean in case the Iranians get any wild ideas. The only things this good-for-nothing government knows how to do anymore is make war and traffic humans. This is the absolute state of America in 2024. And then she posts an article. The U.S. is sending a few thousand more troops to the Middle East to boost security. Okay. Now, I want to show you, okay, she's talking about the southern regions of the United States ravaged by a hurricane, okay? I'm going to show you this hurricane. This is a time lapse of the hurricane that just hit the United States. I live in Florida, so luckily this just missed us, but it basically made landfall in southwestern Florida, and then it pushed up north to Georgia, then it hit South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, and has been wrecking those states. Those states are not like Florida. They're not used to hurricanes. Our state is, okay? So we have like the electric companies and the state, they're always prepared on how to quickly cut down trees, remove trees, fix down power lines. These states, they're not as used to this because they think Florida takes the brunt, usually, before they get the storm. Well, because it made landfall in the southwest of Florida, it had little land to go through, so it maintained a lot of its strength before it got to them and just ravaged them, okay? So this is a map of the power outages. Check this out. I had no power outages down here in southwest Florida, okay? But northern Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, even all the way up to Virginia, major power outages. Some people don't have electricity for a week, okay? So in South Carolina, over 1 million people do not have power. Georgia, nearly 1 million people. North Carolina, nearly 1 million. Even in Ohio, 200,000 people don't have power. And it's caused by, well, actually, I don't know if Ohio is caused by the storm, but this storm did some serious damage, okay? Now let's listen to this clip, Joe Biden, how he responds when people say, is there any more money to help these people? Look what he says. 1 second. Look what he says.
Are there any more resources the federal government could be giving them?
No, we've given them, we have pre-planned a significant amount of it, even though they didn't ask for it yet. Hadn't asked for it yet.
All right, let's play it again, and let's listen to what he said, okay? She's like, there are millions of Americans that have just been ravaged. Do we have any more money for them? Let's listen to what he has to say.
More resources the federal government could be giving them?
No, we've given them, we have pre-planned a significant amount of it, even though they didn't ask.
Okay, no, we don't have more resources. We just gave Israel 8.7 billion, but yeah, here's some chump change for actual fucking Americans, excuse my language. This guy says Ukraine got 200 billion, Hawaiians got $700. North Carolina storm victims will get. Now he's forgetting to mention Israel, which a lot of Americans conveniently do for some reason. They don't like giving Ukraine money, but they don't mind giving Israel money. But yeah, you get the point. Okay, now let's go back to Hezbollah and the war, et cetera, et cetera. Now, given the information I provided you guys earlier, you're probably thinking, damn, the Israelis got so much firepower, so much technology. They do, and so you need to be realistic. When people say, oh, the resistance will destroy Israel, no. But the resistance can defeat them politically and inflict a lot of damage, and this is how. So let's play this clip. Okay? Or no, sorry, this is a screenshot. Explosions can be seen with failed interception. So all Hezbollah has to do, even though they're being invaded, okay, bombed to hell, all they have to do is keep firing rockets little by little in the north. And they will extend this conflict and produce a political conflict because 100,000 settlers, which I'll demonstrate in a second, are trapped in the south. They cannot return to the north, and it's because of this rocket fire, and that's pissing them off. And that is a ticking time bomb for the state of Israel. So why? Why don't people want to go home? People don't want to go home, okay? Because of this. This is what's in the sky, okay, at night. It might only be for like 15 minutes or an hour, but this is the kind of stuff that's taking place, okay? This is why, let's just play that back. I want you guys to get an understanding. Look at all those rockets blowing up, debris falling down. Sometimes it hits your home, okay? This is not a place you want to live with your child, right? Let me take my girlfriend out for a nice date. Oh, there are rockets in the sky. Beautiful fireworks, honey. Just move in case the shrapnel kills you, right? So people don't want to live in the north. So Hezbollah needs to keep this up in order to push them south. So whatever Israel does, satellites, invasions, bombings, killing civilians, all Hezbollah needs to do is make this happen. Okay, and that is a strategic objective being met. Now, let's look at this article here from the Cradle. Nearly half of Israeli settlers displaced from the north refuse to ever return. They refuse because they're like, this is an inconvenient life. I don't want to experience terror even for 5 minutes. I don't want to be terrified for 5 minutes. So that's all Hezbollah needs to do to keep it up. Okay? Now, let's talk about the invasion. All right, we finally arrived at the invasion. We're going to talk about some details. Glutz News Network presented this information earlier today. The Israeli War Cabinet just approved the invasion of southern Lebanon. So we're finally here. They're doing it. And then Osint Defender, he's a Zionist, but you know he produces some good information. He says the first images of the Israeli howitzers. Look, I love how they try to name them as if it's theirs. The Israeli Doher. This is an American howitzer, okay? Stop trying to white label it like you're shipping, you're drop shipping from China. Like, oh, buy my, beauty cream for your face. That's not yours, bro. It's Chinese made. You slap the label on it. So this is an American made howitzer, and the Israelis are trying to pretend it's theirs. But yeah, they're using them. Okay, they're firing them on positions in the south, and they're invading. All right? Now I want to play this video for you because I want to show you the area that Israel's going to focus on first, okay? This is just speculation, but this is based on historical events back in 2006, etc. So this is an area, okay, called Matula, I believe, and it's an occupied Syria, occupied Lebanon, and it's right in between Lebanon and Syria, and this is where their troops are going to invade from first. This is historically what they've done, and this is apparently what they're doing again tonight. This is where the bulk of the troops are moving right now. I don't know how many, we don't know these details, but they're going to be revealed in the coming hours. And you can see how close it is to Syria and Jordan. Okay, not Jordan, sorry, Syria mostly. This produces a very dangerous situation that potentially could include the Syrian army, not intentionally, could be accidentally, but you never know. So Jalisa DeGros posted, Israel securing military posts along Lebanon's border and positioning for an imminent ground invasion. Only artillery shelling is present at this time. The IOF declared the area of Metula, which is what we just zoomed into on Google Earth, Meshgab, I can't pronounce it. Anyway, 3 other areas, as you see circled, and they designated them closed military areas, and they are currently operating there. Okay, and then Hinkle posted, I don't know if this is accurate, but Israel provided this information, a photo of their invasion into Lebanon. I don't know if these troops actually entered or if this was on the Israeli-occupied side, but you can see troops on the ground, and they're obviously going to be moving with armored columns, tanks, armored personnel carriers, etc. Okay, now, how is Hezbollah responding to this? Well, as you would imagine, the Islamic resistance in Lebanon says, this might not be Hezbollah, but Islamic resistance in general in Lebanon, we are looking forward to the ground confrontation. Now, look, despite the fact that they're outmatched and overpowered, and they always have been and they always will be, because this is a resistance indigenous force against a colonial state backed by a global superpower. So they will always be outmatched, okay? Don't listen to these delusional people that are going to destroy the Israeli military. No, that's not going to happen, but they can defeat them in other ways, okay? Despite that, they have been preparing for this moment for years. One, their men are willing and ready to die. And they have built, as I'll show you in a bit, very sophisticated, significant structures, much of it underground. And so despite their satellites and imagery, intelligence, the Israelis are going to be entering an area that the resistance forces have been preparing for a long time. Muhammad Urchid, referencing Jackson Hinkle. Yeah, bro. He shares good information sometimes. So, the point is the resistance is ready, okay? Now, I'm going to ignore this portion about Gaza for now. I want to show you this, okay, guys? This is a website that shows you the topography of Earth. Now, why am I talking about the topography of Earth? Because this is the kind of data that the satellites are collecting, but also this gives you an idea of the difference in elevation of the geography of Earth, okay? So the portions in light blue at the bottom and green, on the right side you'll see this meter, okay? These are the areas of the Earth closest to sea level. The areas in red, okay, are going to be hills, mountains, very tall pieces of land, okay? And so if you look at the state of Florida, all right, it's going to mostly be blue and light green because the state of Florida is like 3 feet above sea level, 10 feet above sea level at best, right? Very low, not very high, okay? Now let's look at the Himalayas north of India, in Tibet, in China. It's red and even white because the tallest point on Earth is Mount Everest, okay? So now that you have an idea of the different topography and the way to read the map, I want you to look at the Israeli troop movements, okay, in southern Lebanon. Let's take a look at the Metula area so it gives you an idea of where they're invading and how they're invading, okay? So not all of it is red like the north of Lebanon, okay? The highest mountains in Lebanon are going to be the north, but in the bottom or in the south, you still have hills and mountaintops that are quite high, okay? And this produces a challenge for the Israeli military because it's hard to drive a tank, on hills and mountains. It puts them in dangerous positions, fragile positions, so they can get struck upon. It also gives Hezbollah places to hide, all right, in the woods, in the trees, in the hillsides, especially if they have tunnels and bunkers, which I'll show you in a bit. But let's take a look at Metula. Look at the color. This is the lowest point, the area that they're operating from first. So a lot of their tanks and armored personnel carriers, they're going to invade like in the southern areas here in the green portions as well. But they start here first, okay? They start here first because it's the area lowest to the sea level, and that makes it easy for them to move their troops and their vehicles. Okay, now this is a screenshot from History Legends. This is a great YouTube channel. You got to watch his content, okay? He will break down the military details better than I ever could. I get a lot of my information from him. Now, this was back in 2006 when Israel had a gradual, a moderate invasion, okay? And this is potentially what Israel is going to start with. But basically 30,000 troops, and as you can see, they invaded here from Metula and this area here. And they also invaded from down here as well, but they started here first. So what they do is they invade, and then they take this area here so that they can box in, okay? They want to box in Hezbollah forces so they get trapped in the south, and they try to then collapse in on them. That strategy did not work back in 2006, but they're trying it again, potentially. Now, I want you to watch this clip from his channel that will explain these details. I think is very helpful. So let's watch this video together.
Direction 11. By increasing ground forces to 5 divisions or 30,000 troops. The second phase was meant to push to the Litani, just like in good old times. Instead, they pushed straight into enemy kill zones. On the 12th of August, a column of 24 Merkava tanks from the 401st Armored Brigade advanced west of Taiba. The moment they entered the Saluki River Valley, they got fired at from all sides. Hezbollah fighters used ATGMs like the Russian-made Kornet and destroyed 11 Merkava tanks within seconds. By the end of the ambush, 12 Israeli soldiers had fallen on the battlefield, including 2 company commanders. It's not a surprise that Operation Change of Direction 11 ended quickly, and by the 14th of August it was GG played, as Israel and Hezbollah implemented a UN Security Council ceasefire. In these 4 days of intense fighting, the IDF lost 34 soldiers KIA, 447 wounded, 20 armored vehicles destroyed or damaged, and 1 helicopter was downed. By the time of the ceasefire, the IDF had captured more than a dozen urban areas, but overall only pushed 8 kilometers inside South Lebanon. Put simply, the Israeli military could not stomach more casualties. In 34 days of war, the IDF had sustained 119 combat fatalities, as well as 750 wounded. Anti-tank missiles were responsible for half of the losses, 25% from mines and various light weapons, 10% from rockets, 10% from friendly fire, and 5% from accidents. Israel's ground forces lost 60 armored vehicles, including 22 tanks, of which 5 were complete write-offs. Meanwhile, the Israeli Air Force lost 5 aircraft, of which 4 from accidents. And the Navy lost the INS Hanit corvette from a Chinese-made C-802 anti-ship missile. On the other side, Hezbollah lost an estimated 500 combatants KIA and around 3,000 others wounded. Considering the initial strength of Hezbollah standing at about 16,000 professional soldiers and reservists, we can estimate that Hezbollah lost 20% of its fighting strength within a month. But it's also important to admit that these losses could be easily replaced due to Hezbollah's heavy militarization of the Shia population of South Lebanon. They would even go on to save Bashar al-Assad during the Syrian civil war a couple years later, where, let's be honest, Hezbollah assault units played a crucial role. In the end, the 2006 war was inconclusive at best, since Israel's objectives were not met. Hezbollah not only strengthened its geopolitical situation in South Lebanon, but also drastically increased its prestige among the Lebanese people and all across the Middle East. As the historical examples of 1978 and 2006 show us, for Israel, a limited-scale offensive involving 25,000 to 30,000 troops will definitely not be enough to root out Hezbollah from the south.
Okay, so as you heard there from History Legends, he says, based on everything you just saw, okay, that the Israeli troops failed. They sent 30,000 troops. They failed in 2006. They entered through kill zones. The terrain was very helpful for Hezbollah. I want to show you this image here. This is like what a lot of the terrain is like in southern Lebanon. Okay, hills alongside bigger hills and mountains with valleys in between. Driving a tank, transporting artillery, howitzers, etc., that is very difficult in this area. So they have to try and find the low areas and then find ways to conquer the hills and then set up bases up there. This is not easy. Now, it's made easy by their technological advantage, which we'll get into later. Okay, it's made easier for them. But in this territory of hills and mountains, Hezbollah, look at all these fortified structures they have in the south. All of these are known positions. There are a lot of unknown positions. Bunkers, tunnels, bases, striking locations where rockets are fired, anti-tank gun missiles, etc. And all of these are connected by tunnels. So this is what Israel's trying to do. They're trying to drive over territory, and beneath them are bunkers and tunnels. And this is taking place on hills and mountains and valleys. And so this is, even with all their advantages, this is going to be very, very difficult. Now, I want you guys to understand this, okay? Despite the challenges that Israel will have to face, and they have faced in 2006, despite losing, despite, going in with 30,000 troops, failing to meet their political objectives, they know this, and yet they're invading anyway. They're acting anyway. So what does that tell you? Either this time they're going to go harder with more men. This guy says at least 100,000 troops are needed to win. Or they're planning to go about the strategy in a different way. So the tactics might look the same, but the strategy will be different. Or maybe they're just dumb, okay? Maybe Israel's just drunk on power and drunk on the delusional arrogance. I don't know. So the point is, they know the risks, they've suffered in the past, and they're trying again. So that's one thing to keep in mind. The other thing is, don't underestimate the resistance, but don't underestimate Israel, and don't overestimate them either. Any advantages are offset by disadvantages, and vice versa. So does Hezbollah and the resistance, do they have OFEC satellites with synthetic aperture radar? No. Do they have F-35s? No. Do they have F-15s? No. Do they have a superpower backing them? No. But do they have mountains and valleys to protect with tunnels and bunkers underneath, and an indigenous population of young men that are religiously, ideologically motivated to fight and die and win? Yes. So they have some advantages. They have many, many disadvantages. And the same is true for Israel. Israel has disadvantages. They have to try and root out bunkers and tunnels in a hornet's nest. But those disadvantages are somewhat offset by the fact that they have F-35s and satellites and all these different things. So I don't know how this is going to play out. But I know it's going to be costly and deadly. And obviously Israel's casualties would be far lower. But Israel is casualty averse, and they have political objectives that they need to meet. And they may not meet them. The last thing is Israel's facing technological superpowers. Sorry, the resistance is facing technological superpowers. You guys understand this, okay? So cut them some slack. When people are like, oh, the resistance barely did anything. Why don't they do more? Why don't they fire everything they have? And people are saying this, unfortunately, because of the propaganda which has to take place. The pro-resistance forces, pro-Axis, they're like, Hezbollah will destroy Israel if they ever come into conflict. They have so many rockets that could destroy Israel. That was all propaganda. That was all hype. That was all bullshit. Excuse my language. I'm sorry. It is. They are strong in their own ways, and they will produce disadvantages for Israel. But because of that hype, people in response are like, well, then show us. Show us, right? They can't show you. But cut them some slack, because look what they're up against. Throughout this whole live stream, throughout this whole video, I've been showing you what they're up against. Okay? So cut them some slack. Even if you're